Thank you for listening to the Tattness podcast on the Tattness Co. Network.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. A Mercedes kind of sentiment, luxury, and trust in me to honor the free we all should be. It sees my sundial burst into yin and yang, right and left, me and you.
What's cracking, y'all? It's your boy Tattness. Thank you for checking out the Tattness podcast uncensored. I've got a guest for you today, bro. This cat is a talented dude. And he's going to go far. He's already accomplished so much, and he's going to go much further because his mind is right, and you'll hear that when talking to him. He's doing this for the right reasons. So, my guest is none other than Ian Guerin. This cat was on ABC Network, Digital Journal, Fox TV, NBC. He's got so much going on, dude. So, you better check this out because this cat is, still young and has his mind in the right place, man, as an artist, as a business person, and it's very impressive. And we had a hell of a talk, and he even let me shit all over Nickelback, which he had nothing to do with, by the way. That was all me, so I enjoyed every bit of it. You guys know me by now. You know how I am. I shit all over Nickelback every chance I get. But he's diplomatic. I'm the opposite, so it's kind of an interesting dynamic. Awesome dude. I'm proud to call him a friend of mine now. I think we'll be continuing to communicate a lot more, and I look forward to having him back on the show at some point, and we'll talk some more because he's such a good dude. Check him out, man. All right, how are you, man?
I'm doing perfectly fine. Thank you for having me.
Oh man, glad to have you, and it's already paying off because it's a nice change. Normally, it's me that has all the technical fucking difficulties, so it's nice to see somebody struggle other than me for once when it comes to technology.
I always do. I usually don't let it show, but this,
I'm famous for it, dude. I don't fucking know shit when it comes to technology half the time, so I get lost real fast, and then I'm like, I need an adult. Somebody come and handle this.
I like that. I'm gonna use it like in my everyday sketches because I like that. I need an adult. I don't consider myself like fully grown.
Right? I'm a grandchild.
Me too. Like some people just tell me like, hey, my cousin's wife, her mother, she was telling me the other day, like, hey, don't you want to have kids someday? And I'm like, I'm just like learning to take care of myself at the moment, but thank you for asking.
I hear that, man. It's like, some days I don't know how the hell I pulled off becoming fucking known all over the world because some days I could barely dress myself. I'm a fucking idiot, so.
Well, people like real people. Like something that I've discovered is that when I used to super produce everything, and I do this very Photoshoppy kind of stuff, and people wouldn't pay a lot of attention. And when I just started going on camera and saying, hey, I got this coming out, people like that.
Right.
So,
well, then they're going to love this because I'm going through my schedule for October, and all month I'm doing like a horror and like Halloween season theme shows. So I have all these people from horror movies and ghost hunters and all sorts of shit, right? And,
right, I love that.
I'm friends with a lot of people from horror movies, like from Nightmare on Elm Street and Friday the 13th and things like that were in it. So I got a few of them on, and we're kind of looking through the schedule, and it's like, that doesn't look like a lot. And then I start scrolling from weeks ago in my phone, and I'm like, oh, there's not the email version of the schedule. I was sent a text one day, like, this person's booked. I'm like, fuck, so I was scrolling through finding all these things I forgot about and putting them on the schedule so I don't end up that day lost. And it's a mess. If I didn't have assistants, man, I don't know what I'd do.
I want one for Christmas. That's all I want for Christmas is an assistant. I used to be a sucker for love and, trip on that for years. Like in high school, I'd be like, I'd see my friends with their girlfriends and all, and I was like, I really want a girl so bad, like for Christmas time. I think I had her once. I got a girlfriend for Christmas once. Like not literally got. I don't want that to sound the wrong way. Like I got her. You know, that's another story. No, just kidding. but I wanted that so badly, and now, you know, ever since my last relationship, I was so hurt that I was like, Dan, you know what? I'm gonna give love a break, and I'm gonna do me. And so things really started happening for me. And now that I have to do all that extra work, you know, I have a nice team that helps me on some of the branches of it, but most of the things that are like this, like having to come on during quarantine on your show and setting my lighting, you know, and doing everything, you know, it's a mess. I'm a mess. So I need someone to help me out. But I think I'll find true love in an assistant. So
hey, if I didn't have assistants, man, I think between the two of us, this show never would have got done because we're both fucking with technology, not having a clue what we're doing. I'd be trying to get my camera to work and my lighting right and my fucking shit set up, and you'd be fighting with your headphones.
But we're real people. That shows your audience that we're real people.
Absolutely. I don't like that, you know, polished bullshit that's so edited to death to look perfect. And it's
like, have you noticed that like celebrities are more relatable now during quarantine because you actually get to see them have all the issues that we thought that they were only ours. Like I see people go on the Wendy show, and I don't know if you've seen it. It's so funny because when they say, please welcome whoever, right? And they bring out a TV, like it's like straight out of a cartoon. They bring out a TV and they're there and they're having all sorts of issues and the sound cuts. And it's like, you think like they'd be so ready. Like, I think Mariah doesn't have that issue because she pre-records and edits. But,
right.
But everyone else is just struggling with that. So just make the best out of it.
That's right. I mean, I pre-record my shit, but I don't spend time editing it unless, you know, there's like a huge gap of like dead air. Nobody wants to listen to that. So
right.
I'll cut that. But otherwise, you know, there's some people that will sit there and edit anytime they trip over a word or something. And I'm like, really? You know, it's not reading a script in a fucking movie, dude. Like, you're a person and that's organic conversation that's going to happen.
Right.
So I don't get that. I think that's stupid and it's fake and I don't like it at all. But you're right, you know, celebrities at this point, it's just kind of like, I don't think we give a fuck anymore. You know what I mean?
No one does. Like,
it's like, I worked my ass off to get where I'm at today. I'm not going to sweat the rest of the time I have here doing this shit, sweating like whether or not I stuttered a second or tripped over a word or lost my train of thought.
Right.
Shit, if somebody sees that, you know what I mean? Like,
at this point, everyone just wants to just have fun and survive.
Right. You know, it's like I get you these kind of guests and things like that, and this is what you focus on, is that I fucking forgot what I was trying to say for a second or couldn't find the word I was looking for or whatever. Like, fuck off. You know? You look at Rogan's show. He's literally got guests getting up to take a leak during the show. They don't edit that out. You know what I mean? Nobody cares anymore.
This is the new real world. I can't remember the name of that cartoon that I saw when I was little. Like, they had the maid that was a robot, and now you have Alexa, and the Japanese people already have made robots, you know.
Oh yeah, like
they have made help,
like the Jetsons.
The Jetsons, right? Yeah, I was forgotten about that. Yeah, right. We're living in that era now, so whatnot.
It's actually funny. I was talking to someone on the show about that, about how back in the 80s we thought the Jetsons would be like what year 2000 was. Like, we thought that's what 2000 was going to look like. Here we are in 2020, and it's like, really? This is what we get? Fuck. Not even close.
I mean, we're so ready in so many regards, yet again, like, if you hop on a plane and you watch and you read the plate, you know, they have like a little stamp on the door that says the plate number and the year of manufacture, you know, and you're like, you're getting into a plane from 40, 50 years ago, you know, that was restored. And it's like, what the hell? Like, we have all this technology and we're flying on this shit.
It doesn't really give you a lot of comfort or reassurance, does it?
Right.
It doesn't do much.
They just took out smoking, which I've never seen a plane fall. People in the audience, if they're under 18, they shouldn't smoke. But you know, but it's like, don't use your cell phone, and you know, all these things, like, they get into the radar. I don't think they get anywhere. But well, whatever. But you know, I don't want pilots or, you know, people in the Air Force commenting like, that singer doesn't know one word about flying, you know. So
Getting called out.
yeah. I get called out all the time, but
oh man, I definitely hear you about looking at some of the older model, you know, shit that they expect you to get on, and you're like, really? I mean, sometimes older is better because they're made better, but sometimes, man, when your life is kind of on the line, I'm not sure you want to gamble with that.
right, I agree.
Not sure you want to find out the hard way that older's not always better. But I mean, then again, a lot of shit made these days is pretty cheap too. So, you know,
Right.
You just get on that sumbitch and hope to get off it in one piece.
I think they planned it that way. You know, things in the past, they were meant to last, and now they make them expendable. Like, if you notice, if you got like your phone, you know, it'll be fine for 2-3 years, and then it'll start having issues, you know, saying that it's all cramped up and that you got no more space left. And you know, and you're like, I have 3 apps. Like, well, literally, I have 3 apps, like social media. I downloaded Zoom today, that, like, I'll erase it afterward. Like, I use apps. I download apps when I use them, so I don't regularly have my phone like stacked up with apps and stuff. And still, every like 2 weeks, they'll say, storage is full, buy more. Or like, they want to pressure you to like buy something. And I know the people from Apple are listening, so they always are.
Oh,
and you know, they'll fill it up so that it doesn't work properly, so that you get tired of it and go out and get a new one, just because I've had my phone for like 2-3 years. But you know, it's not like I can't go out and get a new one. I'm just lazy, and I don't like to be changing phones. I like to, you know, I'm an old soul in that regard. I have one TV, one phone, you know. People sometimes tell me like, "Oh, you're really like avant-garde and some stuff," and then you're so old and other stuff, like the phone. Like, you've had that phone forever, and I'm like, I mean, I'll change cars, you know. They look nice when they're like new, but the phone, who's gonna see it? Like, just to get Instagram, and you know. My pictures aren't taken with a phone, so what not?
I agree completely. Anytime I get a new phone, I'm like an 80-year-old man because I'm so fucking confused by all the changes. Like, as soon as I figure this thing out, I'm going to go out and start yelling at kids to stay off my damn lawn. I have no... Like,
have you shouted out the window during quarantine? I started noticing that we started developing prison behaviors. Like, you know, anyone who's ever watched like any show that involves prisons, like Lockdown or Unlocked or Inside the World Stuff is Prisons, or, you know, even, you know, fictional shows, you know, they'll notice that people that are, you know, there, they develop this thing where they scream out the window. You know, and I've noticed, like, here where I live, and like in my community, I've heard a couple of people shouting out the window, "Everyone doing well," and I'm like, We really are fucked up.
Dude, I've been doing that before the quarantine thing. Just yell random words out the window for my own entertainment because I'm an idiot.
Has anyone replied to you before?
Time, yeah. There's like it was like midnight, and there's these like dudes down across the street at a McDonald's parking lot yelling, and I jokingly yelled, "Shut the fuck up!" And I didn't realize they heard me. And all I hear is one of them was like, "No." I'm like, "Oh, all right." That's fine. I didn't really care. I was just fucking with them. But I didn't realize they actually heard me. They literally yelled no, and then to be a smartass, they were like, "I'm telling my mom." I'm like, "Well, damn."
That's too bad.
They were probably like 20. It's pretty funny, and I was like, "Well, that was my entertainment for the night," because
Yeah.
I'm a fucking idiot. So I mean, that amused me. But it's amazing what you do to entertain yourself when you smoke enough weed. You know what I'm saying?
I don't like smoking weed though, because I don't know. I never got into it. Like,
Yeah, some people do, some people don't. Where I'm at in Canada, it's legal everywhere, so it's all good.
yeah.
But I know in the U.S. there's a lot of places where it's like hit or miss. You know what I mean? And it seems so weird.
Right.
It seems very strange. It's like another world, man. I can't imagine. It feels like it's so long ago that it was made legal.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't get into it because I didn't like how it dragged me down. And I got a lot of people around me that like it, most of them. But it's just like I'm a gin kind of person. I rather have a good, nice gin with fruits, and I like what's it called, like barring, like when you might like to fix drinks.
Oh yeah, I feel the same way. Like I like my fair share of drinks too. You know what I mean? But I find weed helps me sleep really well. So, because I work all the fucking time on this and like my business and shit like that. So, when the time comes to sleep, finally, my brain decides it's time to like fuck around and think about everything under the sun. So it's like,
Right.
all right, I'm gonna fucking sleep properly this time. So I'll smoke a bit, and I'm just out.
Right.
So
Right.
it definitely helps. It has its benefits.
Yeah. Yeah, I've heard, but I rather not. Like, I don't know. It's just not my thing.
Yeah, I mean, there's times too where like I'll smoke one, and then I'll smoke a joint, and obviously I get munchies like a motherfucker. I start eating these gummies. I'm like, these are so fucking good, man. I eat like the whole bag, and then I realize just before they're done, oh, these are fucking weed too. I forgot. So then I'm drinking tequila on top of it, and I'm just fuckered at this point. And that's good times. That was lovely. I had a blast with that.
How long were you high?
Fucking, I slept, and when I woke up, I think I still was a little bit high.
Well, that's not much for all of that.
Yeah, I mean, it could have been much worse. But,
For sure.
but yeah, it was fun as fuck anyway, because I was playing video games that night and shit. And I learned when I'm high, I suck at video games. The fucking worst. It's like so bad, it's a fucking embarrassment. So you do a lot of shows, or?
I do a lot of shows. I've been doing a lot of them since like a year ago. Ever like since the album came out, I've been fortunate enough to do a lot of shows. It had a warm reception. People liked it, and one thing that I think that they liked it was because of why they liked it was because I think it's genuine. When I was making it, I was thinking like, I'm not going to try to fit the trend or do anything that's, you know, out there, because, and I'm going to say this, and I don't know if it's good or bad, but, you know, I hear the music of today, and you know, Madonna once said every record sounds the same, and I think it's truer than ever. And I mean, good for all of those people with a lot of success doing the trendy music, but it just wasn't for me. And I just heard it, and for my first album, they like try to suggest. I don't want to use the word push, but they kindly suggested that I try the more like modern sounds and all of that, and I didn't like it. I was like, you know what? I really don't feel it. I'm having trouble writing the songs. I'm not that kind of guy who writes about, you know, popping bottles in the club. I'm just not that person. Even though I like to go to the club and I like to have a good time and, you know, drinking my share of gin and whatnot, that's not the music that I'm related to. So I decided that I was going to do whatever the hell I wanted, and I did. And it turned out really well. And I think that the main two reasons are because I did what I wanted to do. And when I finished, I was so proud of it that I really invested myself in getting it out there and, you know, spreading the word. And it's worked out. Like, we're putting out a new single from that album still, you know, a year after. We're about to put a single out October 9th, Friday, October 9th, with a new video and all of that. Because the people, you know, keep streaming the album. And one thing that I've learned is, you know, I see a lot of young artists, you know, wanting to put out single after single after single. I have a couple of friends who they like put new music out every 15 days. And I'm like, you know, there are songs of yours that are really good, but if you don't give them a chance by going out there and promoting them, you know, the people that follow you will listen for a week or two, and then they'll forget. You have to constantly remind them that they're there and that they like it. And so I've done that. And, you know, it's taken a while, but people have really, you know, gotten to the point where they think of me as one of the major artists that they want to listen to. And that's because I read on the Prince book, which I have, like, I don't know if you can see it. It's somewhere here. But
Yeah.
I read that he was like, oh, right here. Yeah, that book, he was like, you know, they keep trying to shove artists down our throats. And I'm like, I'm not trying to push myself down anybody's throat, but don't make a joke out of it. I just kind of walked into it, you know, but I'm just trying to showcase something that I believed in. So yeah, I've been doing a lot of interviews and a lot of shows, and I'm very, very, very proud of where it's taken me, and very happy because I've never imagined that it would be like this big and that I would go. It's taken me places that I never dreamt of being a year and a half ago. Like, they asked me the other day, what was your life like a year ago? And I was like, well, a year ago, this whole thing was starting, but a year and a half ago, I was broke and you know, trying to figure out how I was gonna put out this music without ruining its chances. So you know, I'm trying to do it the old-fashioned way, you know, and see where it takes me, and it's taken me to good places. So
See, there's something to be said for it, man. The way you do things, the way it's always been done, because there's so many drawbacks now. With, say, SoundCloud and shit like that, it may draw tons of revenue, but who's really getting it? It's not the artist. It's the fucking, you know, they'll get a little piece of it, but who's really getting the majority, right? And they're making money off your work. So, you know, the way you're doing things is way better. It's been done that way for the longest time for a reason. And, you know, it's funny that you say that too, because I literally just had two conversations that kind of parallel the same thing you just said, where I was talking to Will Crudson, a badass guitarist, about how music, you know, you always have those influences from labels trying to push you to change until it's not your vision anymore. And a lot of people don't feel comfortable pushing back and saying, fuck that, you know, I'm doing what I do. Some do, and that they're the ones that last. You know what I mean? And then
Right.
Sherry Nelson gave me this like massive compliment when she said that, you know, one of the things I love about your show is that you never talk about like trending bullshit. You know, so like 10 years from now, you can go back and listen to your show and it's still relevant.
Right.
You know, it's not time stamped with what was going on at that time. It's something that'll stay true 10 years from now, so you can go back and listen to it and still enjoy it and not, you know, and I said, well, to me, it's lazy. There's so many shows out there trying to make a name for themselves, trying to get where like I've been fortunate enough to get by jumping on every single subject that's trending. And it's like, that's lazy as fuck. It's disingenuous. You don't really care about that shit. You're just trying to get listeners to jump on it because of what it's about. But at the same time, it's like, dude, you're far from the only one doing it. They have options, you know?
Right.
So then to do the complete opposite, something that has nothing to do with politics, nothing to do with COVID, nothing to do with all the craziness going on right now, you become more of a commodity to people because everybody else is trying to talk about that, you know, trending bullshit. And here you are doing the complete opposite, and people gravitate towards that because if they want to hear about COVID, they go fucking put the news on. You know what I mean? Go listen to CNN or some bullshit. You know,
Right.
if you want to hear about politics, it's any given channel on TV, I'm sure, or any fucking Fox News website or whatever the fuck bullshit. You know, it's everywhere. It's on your friend's timeline. You know what I mean? Like you can
Right.
there. If you want some form of entertainment, man, this is what I do. I don't give a shit about all that crap. You know,
Right. I wasn't like a big online watcher till a few months back, and I found exactly that, and I'm driven to exactly those things that you're mentioning. Like I like the shows that are different in content. You know, sometimes some nights I'm watching like the movies that, you know, the like countdowns of movies that, you know, had real accidents stay on camera, and the other night I'm watching, you know, conspiracy theories about reptilians, and the other night I'm watching something completely different, you know, the hidden secrets of Disney, like content that is not your usual.
Right.
And when I go back to the regular programming and I see the usual again, I'm like, that's boring. Like I already saw this on Facebook this morning, like, and it's 2 lines and they're stretching it to make a whole half an hour to an hour show. You know, when I was saying this like to my father on Tuesday, you know, with the debate thing, and he was like, "What do you think about the debate?" And I was like, "Well, I commend the producers of CNN for making a 2-hour show of analysis out of this that, you know, had bare to none content. You know, they are really talented. You know, they brought in people that could stretch the show from like 10 to 12 without anything really having to be said." So when I come back and see, you know, I go back to Watch Mojo or any of this like side of that, and I actually learn more in 10 minutes than I learned in those 2 hours. It's like you gotta do yourself. I think that when you do yourself, and that happened to me too. Like when I start, I always tell my cousin this. Like I tried being Michael Jackson for a while, and it didn't work out well for me because he was already taken. So now that I'm doing me, I'm learning that people actually enjoy it, even though like I can sound like sometimes I can sound a little self-centered or whatnot. They know that I'm not coming from a bad place because
no,
the way that I say it is the way that I am is like they understand that it's not a bad thing to feel comfortable with yourself and to do whatever you want to do. And that's like the premise of my album. Like they're real stories, no bullshit, no trying to drive in those cliche lines of like a sun in the flowers, you know, like you're not gonna hear that when you hear my album. I have one line that's like cliche-ish on each song, and I wanted it that way so that people could find, that like thing that they thought, like if they want to quote or caption, their pictures somewhere, they can do it to the beat of my songs. But they'll also find that there's a true essence behind them where I'm telling a real story. And I'm like, I always say this, like to whoever asks me, I tell them, you're not going to hear those cliche stuff, but you are going to find yourselves there, because I'm not that special a human being to have gone to so much so different than the people out there. Like, we are like the same species. We relate the same way. We have the same issues in love and life. We go through similar stuff because we follow patterns. So, you are going to find your story in one of the songs, like, or you're going to say, hey, I would want that story, or hell, he did wrong. Thank God, there's going to be there. I think that there's something for everybody there, and it's genuine, because sometimes, like, this is why I like Mariah Carey, like, because you hear her songs and you read the lyrics when she was with Sony back in the Tommy Mottola years, and they're like all filled with honey and sugar, and as she got freer and freer and freer, she started making freer music, and you come to the emancipation of Mimi, and you hear all these real stories, and going forward in her albums, like the last one, the Caution album, it's filled with real stories, like when she said, like, the temperature is rising, crack the window. Like, who hasn't been in that situation? It's that simple. You don't have to give those big metaphors. And I come from a place where music is very metaphorical and people love it. Like, I can touch your skin in the sunlight, and I'm like, no, definitely not. We'll not pop bottles, we'll not touch skins in the sunlight. We'll not do that shit.
It's so true. I mean, first of all, to your point, I think you nailed it, because it's kind of like exactly what you're saying. I think everyone would agree. If I wanted to hear Michael Jackson, I'd fucking listen to Michael Jackson. It's already there. It exists, right?
Right.
That's why I always tell people, stop trying to be the next fucking anything. Be the first you, because we haven't got that yet. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
We need that now. We need something new that hasn't been done before. And it's funny to me, there will be people trashing Hollywood. Like, really? They're doing a remake of this movie now? Like, fucking come up with something original. And then here they are in the music industry trying to mimic somebody else that already exists. It's kind of hypocritical.
Right.
Right. But you're right, too. I mean, at the end of the day, we're all fucking human beings. We all, kind of have the same programming. It's like, I'm a 6'5", 265-pound fucking MMA fighter who punches people's faces for a living. But at the same time, I'll still fawn over babies and animals, man. Like,
that is so cool. I did not know that you just said.
Oh, man, yeah, and it's like, even though I do that for, I've done that for time, it's like, I still love babies and animals. Like, you want to see me freak out over fucking something like that? It's like, that's the human, you know what I mean? Like, I love animals, I love babies and shit, and so, I think people forget that you're human, and they just see that, this guy lifts things and then puts them back down, lifts them again, and then goes and punches things. Like, he probably doesn't like anything he can't beat the shit out of, like, or lift, right? And it's like, no, we have other interests other than just pounding on things, man.
Right.
People do forget, like, you're a human being at the end of the day, and you have interests outside of sports and, the gym. You have things that kind of, hit you right in the heart, where, for me, it's like animals. I love animals. I love babies and children and shit like that. I always do things to help children, like charities and shit like that. Always donate for things like that.
Right.
So, I mean, it kind of throws people at times where they're like, wait, what? Like, what? Like, you think that I'm just in, like, barbarian mode, like 24/7,
Yeah, that like, you love doing what you do, but that's all, like, that's your job. Like sometimes it happens to me that I'll be at a kickback reunion, whatever, with somebody, with like my cousins or whatnot, and people will come up to me and say, "Oh, I know you're in music," and my cousin is in music too, so we're both like in the scene, and they know it because they see what we do and whatnot, and they'll come up to us and say, "Well, and how do you get started?" And so it becomes like an interview all over again, and we just want to like talk about the girl that we met, or Pipples and Convicts, or whatever. That show is great. Well, it used to be great though. Have you seen it? It's a really nice show.
I haven't. No.
It's like a Pitbull rescue that, but the thing is that they bring parolees. I don't know if it's called Pipples and Convicts. No, it's not called Pipples and Convicts. Sorry, it's called Pipples and Parolees. Yeah, and they bring people on parole to give them a second chance, and they work there. So it's really cool. So yeah, like I want to talk about that, like or about whatever. Like I enjoy talking music, but as I said, I'm not really into, I'm into Dua Lipa, but not like musically, right? And some people want to come and talk about music, but most of the time people my age won't get that, I'm driven to Ray Charles and James Brown and and all of those people. So yeah, it's hard, the misconceptions, but I think that it's also what makes you different. And I like that you said, you want to be the first somebody. And I always say, you weren't born into a name. You weren't, unless you are the Royals, which name I always forget. It's William and the other one. The one that lives in Canada now. I don't know if he lives in Canada or the United States. He doesn't live in the UK anymore. That one. And
I don't remember the name either.
I imagine one day I'll meet him and he'll know that, you called me that one dude. Like, okay, but you're not a Royal anymore, so it doesn't matter. Right. He gave it up. But they were born into their names, but like Obama wasn't, Shakira wasn't, Mariah wasn't, no one wasn't, Dua Lipa wasn't, no one was. So, you weren't, I weren't. And so I believe that everybody can make a name for themselves. What happens, I think that society has, this issue where 98% of people don't do what they wanted to do out of their lives. So they'll encourage the younger generations to not do it. Like, oh, get a good paying job. I'll tell you this like story real quick. Like I was not seeing this girl. She was like sort of my date friend, whatever. I don't know what she was. And because I can't call her like my date because, well, whatnot. And her father, and this is a few years back, like in 2015, and she was about to go to college. She was like in the last year of high school, and she was about to get into college, and she was like, I don't know what I want to do, but I want to be like famous on Instagram. And I was like, well, last time I heard fame required some kind of talent, Now it doesn't. I know it's so overrated. But last time I checked, you had to have a passion, and then you went and did it, and then you became famous and rich because of doing what you loved. It was like a consequence, a result of that. It's not like, oh, I'm gonna take nice pictures and just and I told her, like, unless you're willing to take your clothes off, because I've seen a lot of popular girls, but if you're not willing, and she was like, no, I don't want to do that. And I was like, then I don't know how you want to do it. And then when she was trying to choose like the career that she wanted to do, she was like, my dad says I should get into law because I should get into a career that makes me money. And I was like, girl, like, all careers make you money. If you do them well, you could, like, you could be, cutting trees like for the state and making great money, and then pick up trash and have a trash company and make millions. Like all walks of life make you money if you're good at what you do. But if you're not good at what you do, no matter if you're a lawyer or an architect or a doctor or whatever career makes you money, then you won't have any money.
That's right.
Because you won't be at the top of the food chain. You won't be there. And at the last minute, she decided to go for what she wanted, and I think she's doing well. But that's the thing, that I think that people like her father encourage. I got to this because people like her father encourage her to do something for money. And this is something that I hear, like when people describe someone that's well, they're like, oh no, they got married, they had children, and it's like a symbol that they're doing okay. And they're like, they got married, they have children, and they got a job, but no one says they're doing very well. They're really happy.
Right.
So 98% of people aren't happy. Like
they're following tradition.
Right. And people are encouraging them. And I always tell people when they ask me, a lot of, fans and friends and family, they come to me for advice. And I always tell them, like, this is really, 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 really simple. Like, happiness is the root of all great things. Like, if you're happy, you're going to get where you're going. And if you don't do what you, and I tell them, like, people who encourage you to do whatever you want and say that you can thrive are those who made their dreams come true. People who made something out, who made a name for themselves, are never going to encourage you to do something that you don't want to do.
That's right.
The people who encourage something that you don't want to do are the ones who didn't even try. And they probably were very successful, but they weren't happy.
Exactly.
And those are the people that you see on a Friday night at the karaoke singing and air guitaring, and going to your fights, to get that adrenaline out, and see you punch someone else, for a living, for good money, and they admire you, and you're so aspirational because of that, because you are what they didn't have, like, the courage to be. So
right, and they're typically wearing tap-out shirts, thinking that they're a fucking fighter.
Right.
You'll see them in a bar getting a couple drinks in them, and all of a sudden they're looking to fight some stranger just because they want to be a fighter so bloody bad. It's fucking ridiculous, and you're 110% right. Nobody ever considers, is somebody happy? Fuck this, they got married and all this bullshit. Because you could own 3 houses, working a government job, making decent money, but if you dread going to your job every day, when you're on your deathbed, you're going to have a regret. And that's
right.
Like, you wasted your life doing something that made you miserable just because it made ends meet, when you could have pursued something that you really enjoy doing and made ends meet that way. And maybe you won't at first, but you're still enjoying the whole process. So
right.
You're doing yourself,
and you really
doing yourself a disservice by not doing it.
Right. And you really have the same chance at failing at what you love. And I heard this from Jim Carrey once. He said, if you're going to have the same chance at failing, doing what you'd love than what you don't, then try what you love. And this is something that I've seen in for myself. Like, I haven't always had the greatest time, and I've been putting music out for years now. And it's been like 10 years since my first single, and just like around 1 year and a half ago, things like really started shaping up for me. And so it was a work of 8.5 years paying off after 8.5 years. But I look around for to my high school friends, and they're all breaking through their careers. Some of them are, one I think got like like an award for something about growing hair growth and whatnot. And some of them, and this is funny, because a lot of the people that did thrive, or that are starting to thrive from my high school, they were those who were with me, you know, at the principal's office, always getting in trouble. Like, hey, you're gonna be suspended. You know, we were the ones that were in suspension and detention, and you know, and the ones that, you know, were the A's and A pluses, some of them did well. Most of them, you know, have just average jobs, which is not, there's nothing wrong with that. But, you know, pursuing dreams is the best way to go. And this, you know, is something that I thought at an early age, like, am I really going to go to college and waste 4 years that I need to be like preparing, because it takes a lot of years to become an overnight success, right? But so am I going to waste that time? And yes, I have my share of regrets of how I did some of the stuff, but I do not have a regret on what I'm doing and on what I chose to do. And that's something that no one can ever take away from me. Like, I love preparing myself to be here sitting in front of this camera talking to you, whereas there are people who wake up at 6 a.m. and they go somewhere they dread, and they come back home and they make everybody at home miserable because they're not happy. Yeah. And I said this once in radio. It was an early morning show, and I'm not good with mornings, like not at all. So I thank you for, you know, having this lovely time. You know, this scheduling is my finest. And I was in radio, and I told him, I told the radio host, I told him, you know, I was thinking in the morning, in the shower about this. I thought to myself today, this is the first time that I'm showering at 5:30 in the morning to get somewhere I actually want to be at. And I'm really awakened, and I'm really happy, and I'm really energized to be here. And it's 9 a.m. I never do 9 a.m. and I'm here and I'm happy because I was there to do what I love. You know, I don't care. I've learned that I don't like waking up early, but I'll wake up early gladly if I have to go somewhere I love. So I encourage people in your audience, you know, just do whatever the fuck you want. Like Cher said, you can always go, shouldn't have done that, but at least you tried. Don't let you know. I heard this. I don't know who he was. He's like a famous scientist. I heard him on Instagram the other day saying, if you have a truly good idea that you truly believe in, don't let some idiot talk you out of it. So right. I believe it, man.
Hey, I mean, you know, we're two living examples because I'm just like you. I was always in shit in school. And then I went to college, and all that turned out to be for me was a really expensive party. You know, because I didn't end up doing none of that bullshit for a living. I went to college for business accounting, and I ended up punching people's faces in for a living. So, I mean, figure that one out. So I don't think they correlate too well. So that might have been you know, if it wasn't for the fact that I had a blast, it would have been a waste of time. But I got to know a lot of cool people. I had so much fun. I was in the gym every day and at the bar the rest of the day. So, you know, it was fun as hell. So I have no regrets on that. But, you know, that's all it was a really pricey party. Because nothing came of it because I was like, I don't want to do this shit. But you're right. I mean, if you know, like, people don't understand that it's soul sucking to do something, no matter how much money you're making, if you hate it. And I once, you know, everyone knows me to be somebody that, like, I just don't give a fuck. If I don't enjoy something, I'm done. And I even said to my personal assistant one time, you know, if I stop enjoying this fighting shit, then I'm just not gonna do this shit anymore. She's like, but you're fucking famous. I'm like, I don't give a fuck. Like, I don't give a shit. You know, I'll go back to fucking obscurity. I don't give a fuck. If I'm not happy, then who gives a shit? You know, or I'll go do something else that makes me happy and, you know, carry on from there. And that's the joy of being relevant, is you are followed by people, whatever you get into, whatever you choose to do. So that's cool, you know what I mean? Like, I would do so many different things because no matter what I do, people seem to give a shit. And then my show recently ended up being listed as number 10 out of the top 50 in the world. So up there with Joe Rogan, I was like, holy fuck, dude, that's pretty cool. But at the same time, if I stopped enjoying this, then I'm not fucking doing it anymore. You know what I mean? It's just that easy. I don't care,
Right.
you know, and everyone's like, oh, but you're famous for this shit. Blah, blah, blah. I don't give a fuck. Who cares? I'm still a dude like anybody else. Like, you know, it's just people know who the fuck I am.
Yeah, and if you don't enjoy it, you turn out like my, you know, he's not my good pal, but he, I think, was a good guy before they messed him up. Like Justin Bieber, every time I see him anywhere, I just get the feeling that he's so not enjoying it.
Yeah, you could tell.
And it's like, man, he was, you know, he still seems like a cool dude, you know. And I'm trying to be very careful with the words I choose, you know, because then the tabloids will come and they'll pick this video up and they'll, you know,
You're a better
they'll
person.
cut it and they'll play him the part where I said like he used to be a cool dude and no, but you know, I like when I like when people enjoy what they do, and I like enjoying what I do, and I'm with you right there when I say that if I didn't enjoy it, you know, I wouldn't be doing it. Like we all have the good and the bad days, you know. Not every time has to be, you know, the ultra cheer. There are times where I do not feel my best, but there are never times where I say, yeah, I don't feel good enough to do this. Like it becomes my escapism. Like I'm not feeling well, so I'm glad that I have this to do, because probably when it's over, I'm gonna feel better.
I gotta say, you're a better person than I am for choosing your words carefully. Because I was on someone else's show and we spent like an hour just shitting on Nickelback for like the whole time. I don't give a fuck who hears it. So fight me.
Nah, you know, I try to do that because I don't want to be like in those shows where, you
Right.
know, I'm sure there's a point where people are going to talk about me, like trying to put together my life and trying to define it in a way, or my personality, or assume that I'm a certain way. So I energetically try to be fair to them. Like I have never met Justin personally, so I don't know if he's a good or bad guy. You know, I have my personal opinion of what I see in the media, but that does not make him what he is. So I expect the same from that. And I'm trying to be kind, so the universe gives me that kindness, you know, back. So if shitty tabloids are watching, please keep it positive.
I think you fucked that by calling them shitty tabloids. They might not be so kind now. And if anyone's show is the place to do it, it's mine. So that's great, because I'm that guy. So don't worry. I've probably already said something that's upset people more than anything you said. So I'll be the target, I'm sure. I'm always doing that. I don't give a fuck. I do it all the time. And it's funny, like to your point, I've heard some really weird shit about my life apparently that I didn't know about, but other people think that it's factual. I'm like, all right, that's cool. Such weird random shit too, where it's like, really? Like, I don't know where people get this shit from, but I'm like, all right, cool. I guess that's how it is. You know, like, you know, you're always gonna hear weird shit. People are always gonna say shit. People are always gonna look to pick up on something you said, find a way to like manipulate it, and unfortunately, that's just the way it goes. You know what I mean? People are always looking to manipulate what you say so it fits their agenda, because they want to believe you meant something completely different. So
Right.
I just want everybody to know, when I said fuck Nickelback, what I really meant was fuck Nickelback. I mean what I say. It's a Canadian dispute.
I didn't know that they were still around.
Oh my god, I wish I didn't know they were still around.
I always found it intriguing how he used the double mic, during the shows. Like have you seen one of their shows?
No. But I can tell you why he did that. One was for him and one was for his massive ego. So, fuck that guy.
It was supposed to be like something about the effects, but then my producer told me like it's not needed. Like he doesn't need to have that.
No.
But I found it interesting, and for years after seeing that concert, I wanted to have that double mic thing going for me. And then I found it not to be very practical, And I'm actually good looking, so it just covered the rest of my face, and people couldn't see it. So it was a mess. But I won't be playing any of their covers on my show. That's for sure.
Thank God. A wise choice.
I don't want to run into them in a red carpet and having them be pissed by what you said. Because they'll have someone in their team come and tell them. They won't actually watch, but someone will come and misinform them. So,
or they'll be like, "Well, the dude that said it's a fucking pro fighter, he's not. I'm gonna go take it out."
Exactly. I don't believe that they're gonna come up to you, and that's for sure. No Grammys for me next year, and
My bad. No, you've been very diplomatic. Where I, on the other hand, not so much.
That's who I am. I want people to know that it's not for the show. Like I'm usually like that. I think that silence or diplomacy can't be misquoted. Well, it's happened to me that they apparently can, but but I try to be like that. I try to be fair. Just because I believe in dharma and karma, so I want to have like good energy around me and things to go well. Sorry.
Much like you said, same with me. It's not for the show. I'm just an opinionated fuck. So. Everyone knows.
Right. Right. That's funny then.
So I'll even put it out there. My opinions came from me, and it's my views, not his. That one's all me. So take it out on me. Come and say some shit.
They won't. No. I promise you they won't.
I do look forward to tabloids talking shit about me, though, because I said that, like trying to start beef.
Well, there's no thing is, well, I do, after seeing some like stuff go on with artists, that have legal troubles, I know that there is such a thing as bad press, but I don't think that, like, if it's not criminal, I don't think that anything, that you say to start beef is good, I'm like, I don't know, like, I don't think that it's like, that it affects you in any way, because, if you start something, then they'll talk about you. And
exactly. And if they don't, who gives a fuck?
Right. Right.
Somebody posted some bullshit on social media saying, "Oh, Nickelback needs to put out a Christmas record." And I was like, "Listen here, motherfucker. The only thing that I want to hear from Nickelback is a retirement speech and an apology. I don't want to fucking hear nothing else."
Well, why don't you like them? Did you have like an issue with them or something?
It's not even them as a whole. It's just that Chad prick. He's such an egotistical fuck that it's mind-blowing. And every interview that I see with him, it just makes me want to punch his face so fucking much more. It's like, dude, you need to get over yourself fast, because it's getting way out of hand. Like, this guy talks about himself like he's a fucking god, and it's really annoying.
But why? He's just in a rock band that's moderately popular.
I mean, come on, man. It's just so cringy.
So I went on another show with the host Derek, and we literally just trashed them for an hour. Everything we talked about came back to like insulting them one more time. So it was pretty entertaining. Made us laugh, but he's like, I want to get him on the show. He's like, I think it'd be interesting. And I'm like, you got to get me on that sumbitch then. If you get him on, I'm coming.
You should, yes, you should have him on your show someday.
Oh my God. I would, but I bet within like 30 seconds he would like hang up on my ass or some shit, or just like fucking sign out and be like, fuck this guy. Because I will call him on his bullshit.
No, because narcissist people, they don't like to hear otherwise. So he'd probably get into it. And even though he'd have people around him telling him, like, just get out of the call, don't say anything, he'd be so fired up that he'd want to say something. So that would be interesting to see. Like, I don't want to say that I'm starting it up, I don't even know the guy. I didn't even know his name before.
I'm not trying to drag you in any bullshit, but it would have been funny. Like if he went off on some big rant, I would have waited till he's done and be like, I'm sorry, were you saying something? I went to get a beer. I didn't hear none of that. Just let him go off for like 10 minutes and then just be like, what? Oh shit, you were talking? Didn't catch a word of it. Oh man, it's just agitating me with all the interviews. It's like, man, I just want to backhand this motherfucker.
I've never ever seen him speak. As Whitney Houston, I saw this post the other day of hers and on Instagram, and I found it funny because it reflected so much of who I am. And she was like, they didn't have the whole like bite, so the whole sound bite of it, so I don't know what she was talking about. But she was like, I listen to singers, so I very rarely listen to people who cannot sing. and that's me. Like, I'm not saying he cannot sing, but but I'd rather listen to Whitney during her last tour.
I mean, that's another point too, is sound bites. They're never taken in context. They're always taken out of context because they're always so small. You have no idea what preceded it. So you don't know. It could sound completely brutal when it was actually harmless. You know what I mean?
Right.
Right. Because they'll take just enough to get somebody thinking shit, because then they want to hear the whole thing. But by that point, anyone that doesn't, these days, people are so lazy. It's like you go on social media, people read the headline, not the actual article. And then they'll go into the comments and they'll have an opinion. And you'll eventually see somebody that's like, did you even read the fucking article?
Yeah, because it doesn't even say what the headline says inside. Like, it's all twisted, and misled, and
So it's no different when you have a soundbite. Half the time, people don't even bother listening to the interview. They just take what they took from that soundbite and run with it and start telling people, oh, I think this was a shot at this person, because that's what they want it to be. You know what I mean? And it could be something totally harmless, but you'd have to hear the interview. And I think the media loves doing shit like that.
Right. Now with cancel culture, it's even worse, They immediately want to cancel people for no reason. Like, it's like, dude, like, I can't remember all the people that have been tried to be canceled this year, but it's like I wake up and there's a like cancel party for whoever, and I go in and see what they said, and it's like, this doesn't even matter. It's taken out of context. Like, I picture them in my head saying it, and it's like, why is this wrong? Like, we got to focus on so much more stuff now Like
Right.
the world is in a real bad shape, and people are arguing about stuff that doesn't even matter. Like that's why I sometimes tell my dad, like, sometimes humans disappoint me. You know, I see like whales and dolphins and dogs and cats, and they you see them and they're so bright. Like, even though I don't like my father's cats because they take advantage of situations, and I think that they're unfair son of bitches, you know, they do. Like, I don't like that. It's like they're kind of evil. Like, I don't like them, you know. They're manipulative, and you know, uh, but you know, I see that there's a brightness to all of the other species, and you know, they're so intelligent, and here come humans, you know. And you know, I saw it on Tuesday. Like, I don't get into politics, but here are two people that have the power of the world in their hands, and they're taking shots at each other instead of discussing how the hell they're gonna take us out of this mess, you know.
Yeah.
And we really do need that picking up the mess, you know. It's serious. Like, I heard from somebody in Australia. I don't want to call her like a fan. I don't like calling my fans, you know, because they sometimes know better than my own family, you know. But I was talking to her, and she's from Melbourne, and she was saying, you know, we've been on lockdown, on mandated lockdown for 6 months. We can't go, I can't remember how many feet away from their homes. They can't go outside but just for groceries. And if they're seen outside for longer than an hour, they can get arrested. They can't fly out of the country. They can't go interstates, you know, in the car. They can't do anything. They have to be on lockdown at home. And she says it's literally a ghost town, and we're all in prison here in Melbourne. And I was so shocked because I always thought that Melbourne was like a civilized place, right? And she was like, the mayor is such an asshole, and she's doing this to us. I don't even know who the mayor is or whatnot, but you know, she said that, and I was so impressed. And I was just thinking, like, the world is really a mess. Like, are they trying to control us, or why are we sitting down for 90 minutes to see two people take shots at each other without saying one word of how they're going to make it better? And that's not just for the US, that's everywhere. You turn on the news everywhere, and politicians are just, you know, fighting and at each other's throats, saying, you know, he did that, he stole this, he's an asshole, he's stupid. You know, they're all pointing fingers to get to the next, you know, seat.
Yep.
And it's like, when are we going to fix the issue? So I came down to the thing that anyone who's not in politics, you know, has to change it. You know, we as a society have to unite and change it ourselves, because they're not going to do it. You know, we have to start by doing it ourselves. And, you know, I'm glad that you have a show made for people who actually, you know, want to be themselves and care, because I see programming all the time. And, you know, I saw this commercial about masks the other day, and they were like, you know what, 98% of people are depressed during this lockdown because they can't see other people smile. That's why you need to buy our mask that's transparent. And I was like, just overhearing that while I was like getting some stuff together, and I was like, I turned to the TV like, this is like cheap as programming lies to sell masks, you know, and make people spend money that they don't have. Like,
right.
And you're really coming to me with this bullshit. 98% of people are depressed because they can't see others smile. Like, they're depressed because they can't go out, and they don't have any money because many of them got laid off and they're worried. They're not because they can't see their neighbors smile. Stupid. But that was the way that they were selling those masks. And I was like, wow.
Yeah, blatant capitalism.
Right.
And I've had somebody tell me from my clothing company, oh, you need to like design masks and shit. I was like, I will never do that. I am not going to make a buck and capitalize off of something that's mandatory for people. I think that's cheap. I think that's like just filthy, you know, like that's just slimy. I'm going to run my business with integrity, and I'm never going to fucking resort to shit like that. I think it's just tacky, to say the least. And, you know, to your point, exactly what you were saying before, it's like, I do my show the way I do because, like you said, you know, you're a musician, but you don't necessarily want to talk about music all the fucking time. You know what I mean?
Right.
You're a person. You have other interests too. And, you know, when this is what you do day in and day out, sometimes it's nice to just talk about something completely different that you never really get to speak about, because you go on a show and the first thing they want to do is talk to you about your career and shit that you've answered 7,000 times before, you know,
Right.
and it's so boring. I've been there, I've done it, and it's like, this question again, really? And, you know, it's just, there's no originality to it. It's like, sometimes you just want to fucking be able to go on a show, blow off some steam, be who you are as a person, and talk about whatever the hell you want, and have a normal conversation with people. And so that's what I offer. And I think maybe that's why people keep asking to come back. And I'm like, sure, you know, like fucking anytime. Plus, I'm always accommodating of schedules. I know the time zone difference. So I was told for you, this time works best. I'm like, okay, that's 10 p.m. start time for me. I don't give a fuck. Like, I'll be here. You know, like, what do I have going on? And we were talking about, you know, like sound bites and shit. It clicked with me that there's like apps now that people use for their show, where it literally takes like a 30-second audio clip of the show and it'll play it so people will hear it and then they'll want to go check out the fucking show. And I never use that because I don't think people realize that could be a huge detriment to your guest, because if that 30 seconds of them saying something that could be taken out of context, you know, all of a sudden they're being accused of this, that, and the third. And it's like, those people didn't even listen to the show to hear what you were talking about. They just took that 30 seconds and took it the wrong way or twisted it, you know. So I just figured it's better to avoid those types of things, man. And just, if the show is there, listen to it or don't. But I'm not giving you samples that you could hear like a little bit and be like, oh, this person said this, and I assume this is what they meant by it. You know, it's too risky, you know. If it was just me doing my show, fine, you know, but when I have guests, it's like, no, I'm not going to do that to my guests, because you think it's harmless, but until it randomly selects like 30 seconds, and it will fucking probably pick up something that could be taken away out of context.
Here are two people in complete power taking shots at each other.
Right.
Damn.
You know?
We were saying such cool stuff, and that's the thing.
Right, you know, and then that's what people will take from it and be like, hey, that guy fucking said this. And with everybody being so like politics crazed right now, you're going to end up with a comment section full of people arguing with each other about whether you were right or wrong, or fucking, you know.
And what do I know, right? What does he know? You know?
Right, you know, it's so stupid. So I'm like, fuck it, I don't do all that stupid shit, because you know, the last thing I want is for one of my guests to end up, you know, in some fucked up situation because of that, when all I was trying to do is advertise my shit, right? You know, I never advertise. It's just, I get millions of fucking listeners and I don't advertise. I don't need to. It's, I feel like it comes across usually, if it's not done right, advertising sometimes comes across like obnoxious, and it makes people not want to listen to your shit just out of spite, because of like, fuck, this guy's shoving his shit down our throats. And everybody's got a show these days, and they all think they're big time, and it's like they have like a listener, you know.
Yeah.
You know, so it's like, really, good luck with that. But you know, it's just, I don't know, it just seems like if you have that many listeners, advertising just seems pointless, you know.
Right, and they'll give it to you anyways, because you know they'll have a commercial beforehand. So and I as I said before, I wasn't like really into online stuff before, like at the beginning of the year, but once I started getting into it, I loved it so much. And one of the reasons why is because of that you said. Some of those conversations, they're great to listen to, and they're just going through like stuff, but it doesn't have to be an agenda of things. They're just going through conversation and taking, thoughts that they have and exposing them and, discussing them. And it's very interesting. And when you're sitting in traffic for 2 hours, you're like invested in the conversation and you don't even notice that it's been 2 hours. Like when I was going to the dentist, my dentist, like his practice is really far away. And I went there and I'd be like 60, 90 minutes, drive. And I'd get there and some people would be like, oh, thank God I'm here. And I'd stay sometimes for 15, 20 more minutes in the car so that I wouldn't have to go without finishing whatever it was that I was hearing, right? And that's because they're so good. So yeah, I love that, like podcasting and YouTube shows and online TV shows. I love them, and I think they're really different, and they set me on a very different perspective, because that's also another thing as like audience of those shows, and mainly of those shows, when I come and talk to people that watch regular programming, they're like, where did you get this stuff? Why do you know that? Or why, and they'll be like, you're so bright and so knowledgeable. And I'm like, no, I just heard it from this other person. The thing is that they don't get it on TV because they rotate the prime ministers and presidents of the world saying nonstop things in bites all the time. So you don't get this stuff because they're so, I don't know, like those round tables, I sometimes come up to my mom and I'm like, Mom, could you like just turn it down a bit? Because they're like saying so much nonsense. They've been talking for like an hour and they haven't said a word. and she's like, oh, I'm not even watching it. I'm like, break it down then.
Right. Yeah, you're 100% right. And it's funny because there are people like some of these indie fucks, man, that think they have a show. Will post on social media that they keep it at like 10 minutes. How the fuck is that a show? That's an advertisement at this point. What are you going to talk about in depth for 10 minutes?
Right. No, nothing.
I couldn't sell you a fucking pair of shoes in 10 minutes. You know what I mean? So fucking, I don't get that. And they're like, oh, nobody will listen to a show that's like an hour or longer. Okay, well, mine is typically an hour. If not, sometimes we go longer. And here you are saying you'll listen to something that's been 2 hours and you're still like, I don't want to go in. I want to hear this.
Yeah.
And it's like, that's proof right there that there are people that don't have such a short attention span that, 20 minutes or less is all they can handle. Some people want an in-depth conversation. You know what I mean?
Right.
So that's something I always preferred. What are you going to really get into in 10 minutes?
Nothing at all. And nothing at all. And not even like in music, when this Lil Nas X song came out, like I've heard it one time. It's 90 seconds long and I've heard it one time in my life. Like the old damn bro, and I was seeing like an analysis of that song on an online show, and they were saying that with social media and Instagram, and with Instagram TV and all of that, people had such a short attention span. Like if you don't get their attention in 5 seconds, they'll just swipe and leave it there. So that Lil Nas X was the first example of how they were trying to shift music intros to be shorter, so that people would get into the hook like 30 seconds into the song. If you listen to urban music, like Latin urban music, you'll see that they either start with the hook or they're jumping into the hook at 20 seconds, and it's like, I didn't even get to play an instrument or sing a verse in 20 seconds. Like my music is, and some of my songs come in real quick, like my free time single comes in like a 10, 11 seconds, you know, when it starts singing, but it's just the way it's made. Some others come in at 30 seconds or 20 seconds, you know, or they have a piano instrumental in the middle, you know, because it sounds good, and because music is designed, was created to sound good and to have quality. And I'm like, and so this was because they were trying to suggest that I shorten my tracks so that they could be more commercially appealing. And I was like, no. And my dad has always said that, like, do longer intros. He likes electro music a lot, and he's like, do longer intros, do a minute intro. And I'm like, no, I can't go that long because no radio station will play me. But you know, at a 1 minute intro is too much, but I'll have 20, 30 nice seconds, you know, of real music. Why are you trying to push it so that I make it shorter? And he's right on that, you know, and that's another example in music of how there are people like my father who will listen to 2 minute intros and enjoy it. You know, it doesn't all have to be Lil Nas X coming in at 5 seconds, you know,
Right.
and done by 90 seconds. It's like, we're not in, I auditioned for the voice once, and when I was in the audition, they're like, you can really sing well, but we'd like to hear something better. And I'm like, this song has good parts, but if you're trying to make it shorter than 90 seconds for me to showcase it to you, I'm not even going to build the intention of it. So my sister, she's in film, and she told me, like, that's not a singing contest, that's a TV show. So you want to do TV, go. If you want to make something out of your career, musically speaking, you don't need that, you know, because they'll focus on the judges, not on you. And I mean, it's a show that I like to watch, but because of its entertainment, you know. So those shortenings of stuff, at a point where they've called me every name in the book. Like, they say that I don't look like Justin Bieber. Once a family member of mine told me, "You're not Justin Bieber," and I was like, "Nor will I ever be." Like, what does that mean? But yeah, coming back to the attention span situation. Yes, it is true. And it's for everything. Like, sometimes, like, I do like magnetism in my face, you know, so that it stays young and fresh. You know, and I need 20 minutes of that. So I'll look for a show that's 20 minutes long, and that, you know, it'll be for that. But I'll need a 2-hour show for the car, you know, and I'll need a 5-minute, you know, for my push-ups or whatnot, you know. So there's different things for different people, and there's a market for everybody. So again, to everyone listening, do whatever you want. There is a niche for you in whatever the field you want.
Right. You know, and I don't get people shitting on like an hour-long show where people go in depth on things. But then, you know, they have a 10-minute fucking quote-unquote show, but it's like 60 seconds of that is their intro. And then another 60 seconds is their ad placement that is, you know, they have to put in. So now you got 8 minutes to talk about what? What are you going to talk about in 8 minutes? What you had for fucking breakfast? You know, like,
I guess it works when you're like on a segment on like a regular programming TV show, if they're, you know, but even so, they give like guests 10 minutes, 15-minute blocks, you know. And I learned from the guests, because I'm like, if I'm in that situation, how do I shorten my answers? Like, I saw Fran Drescher the other day go on Wendy Williams, and she was there for 14 minutes, and she was so informative. Like, it seemed like she was there for an hour, and I'm not saying this the wrong way. Like, she was very entertaining, you know, but in 14 minutes, I was like, whoa, she said one hell of a lot of stuff, you know, so I try to take the good out of that and, you know, make it work for me and see how it works, because, you know, I too like shows that are longer and that I can explain myself better. You know, I think that it helps me more to let people know who I am, what my ideas are like. You know, that's one thing that I've always thought. Like, if I come and say, hey, here's my single, go buy it, like, they're like, who is he? Like maybe in 2 years when I'm, a headline act, they'll know like, Ariana, what? Like, okay, I'll go by the single, but at this stage of my career, like, if like, I think that they get better perspective of who I am and how they can relate to me if they hear me saying what I need to say and, my views of life. And they'll go like, oh, he's a nice dude. He's funny. He made me laugh a couple of times. What was the name of the song again?
Exactly. And that's why I give people like enough time to kind of show people who they are, and not like this robotic Q&A session where their answers are going to be, the same standard that people heard in other interviews. It almost makes somebody like inhuman at that point. It's like, so robotic, and it's just like, you can tell half the time they're not enjoying it. And, it's like, it's fucking boring. And for the 10-minute shows, I mean, there's some people that probably do it really well, but my issue is with the people that are doing it for the wrong reasons, where they're like, oh, I got like X amount of listeners. I'm like, well, who the fuck can't spare 10 minutes to decide if something sucks? You know what I mean? You're trying to make money quick. You're trying to get so many listeners that you think it's going to draw you ad revenue. So you make it as short as possible. So even if someone is skeptical and thinks, like, even if someone decides right off the bat, your show sucks and they haven't even heard it yet, they're going to listen to it for at least maybe half the 10 minutes to decide, yeah, I was right. So then it counts as a listener. You know what I mean? Right. And so like that to me is kind of a cutting corners way of trying to rack up listeners. Because if it's an hour long and I think it's not for me just by reading the description, I'm not going to invest any time into it. You know what I mean? But if it's 10 minutes, I'm like, what am I going to lose here? You know what I mean? So there's a lot of people that try to scam, listens like that. And then there's the people that buy the fake, bot listeners and shit. But then I didn't know.
I knew views existed, on YouTube and that, but I didn't know like bot listeners existed.
Oh yeah, dude! If you go to SoundCloud, like there's people trying to sell them to you all the time. They're like, "Oh, pay this much and you get like 3,000 listeners guaranteed and whatever." To the point where like Apple and YouTube, I believe, has caught on. Where if they see anything like that, where there's suddenly a spike in like thousands of listeners or viewers, they flag it as suspicious and they will not monetize you, and they'll probably pull your show off of the platform because they don't play with that kind of crap, especially Apple, because they have charts, right? And they don't want people using these scam apps and paying, these promoters for fake listeners to put them at the top of the chart. Because that's unfair to the people that are doing it organically, right?
Right.
So it's actually really weird. It's a strange time, man. People are resorting to all sorts of weird shit.
Can I tell you something that just came to mind? And I'm asking because you remember this girl we talked about earlier, the one with the father that told her to have a career that made money. I'm gonna say this because it's funny. You're saying that, and she wanted to be famous on Instagram. So I stalked her the other day, and just regular stalking, nothing out of the norm. Just went on her profile, see what up, and I noticed that one day she decided she was gonna be famous, and she had like I don't know, like 6,000 followers the previous day. And I went back in the next day. I don't know why. Like there was something off, and I saw it, and I didn't realize what it was. And then I came back the next day, and she had 50,000 followers. And I was like, "Ooh, I bet you that was expensive."
Yeah.
But hey, it's her money, or her father's money, or whoever's money. So, and the one thing that I noticed, I came back in for the following days to see like not like statistically professionally check, but like just to make up my mind on how was it working for her. And I saw that they were starting to fall back, and that's one thing that I noticed. Like I rather have the following that I have, and it not fall back and actually, you know, follow some of these people back and get to know who they are and, you know, why they enjoy my music. And that allows me to do like a focus group, you know, even though they're not like, even if I don't do polling for stuff, you know, I'll know their interest. I know what they like best, you know, and I'll get to know my fans so that I can grow my following based on what people expect from me and how they like me to be seen, you know? And I think that in the long run, that makes up for a real career.
Yeah. I mean,
Even if you know, and that's what I'm looking for. Like, I'm not aiming to be an artist that I have a song today and 10 years from now, like, can't and nobody can remember my name. Like,
right.
I love a lot of songs that I like. Who was it? Like Lil Nas X. Like, I'm glad he had that 20-week run and all that, but you know, he took a break because he said he was tired from all the promo, and I can get that. But is the career solid enough? We will have to wait and see. Like, people give a lot of shit to Madonna because she's like, oh, she's a has-been and she's old and she's reckless. And I'm like, Madonna posts good stuff on Instagram. She's very inspirational, like, and she's very bold too. And you can really tell that she has a style that comes from the heart. And so when I see those posts, when her record comes out, I want to listen, right? And she's been around for like, what, 40 years now?
You're right.
And she still gets like a #1 album every time she comes out. You know, even though her sales have declined, you know, she still gets attention because she's a genuine human being that wasn't afraid. Like, you see how we've rounded up all that we've talked about during this time, you know. She did what she wanted to do. She believed in herself. She stayed true to the act. And then what she's doing right is that she's not trying to get with the program of any sort, you know. And I like that, and I see that, and it's like, God, I just like people that like doing their own stuff. And she doesn't give a shit if her album sells less than her previous one or whatnot. She's like, bitch, I'm Madonna and what not. So that's a good attitude to have in life, you know. So
I always love seeing that on the internet when there's some dickhead that's like calling anybody that's been doing something professionally for 40 plus years, like, oh, has-beens. Like, really? Before you call somebody a has-been, keep in mind they've probably forgotten more than you've ever fucking done, motherfucker. You know what I mean?
Yeah, right.
They've probably forgotten more shit than you've ever done in your life. Yeah, so, you know, I think I would rather be a has-been than be where you're at. You know what I mean? Sitting there on the internet trolling somebody.
Like, I'd rather be a has-been than never to have been. Right.
Right. You know what I mean? I would rather be a has-been that had a 40-year run rather than somebody who's in their parents' basement talking shit on the internet, you know?
Right. And it's a test of time that matters, because some people, I get this from a lot of people that, you know, they hear me sing, because I record hosted songs. Like, sometimes I want to experiment with a different sound that I'm known for, and I'll do, you know, Latin urban, or I'll do those recordings, you know, and I'll have them there, like, and I always say, like, for another singer who's proud to promote them, like, it's not my style, but, you know, I can write all sorts of genres for a lot of people, right? So, but I don't put them out, and sometimes I play it to my friends and, you know, to my family, and they're like, man, you'd be so famous if you did it now. Like, you'd be so big if you put this song out. And I'm like, man, I'd be famous for like 5 minutes, and then I'd hate every moment of that promo because I wouldn't believe that this is who I am. And then who cares about those 5 minutes? Because it's the test of time.
That's
if you want to build a legacy career, you're going to have to work. Like Aretha Franklin said, you know, there was a time where you took baby steps to a major career. Now people just want to blow up in 2 seconds, you know, with their first single, boom, have a blow up single, and then break through and then be forgotten. I don't think, and I think that part of the reason why it doesn't work out is because they do not have the season and the experience to put up with the shit that comes your way when you are that big. So when I notice how I've, come from smaller shows to bigger shows to bigger shows, and I notice like that progression. I listen to every show that I do or watch it back. I always like do that, like see how can I get better. And I see that progression and I'm like, I like that, because I'm ready for every next step. And I realize that some artists that, get big real fast, they're not ready. And that's why they had turned out doing drugs and alcohol and, blowing their money off, because they're not ready and it's too much pressure. So, it's for for people listening, don't try to rush it. It's the longevity that counts, not how fast. And I remember Ja Rule, I believe it was Ja Rule who said this. He said, I love quoting people because they sometimes say some cool stuff or funny, but Ja Rule said, I don't want to ever reach the top, because once you reach the top, there's nowhere you to go but down. And I believe that, like, you always have to be in a journey to your next goal, your next goal, your next goal. So you don't, but people, especially with social media, they have like this hunger for and this thirst for getting followers and getting noticed. And it's like, you're noticed for nothing. Like, I see girls that are 18 years old, and of course, they got nice bodies and all, and they're, showing their breasts with a nice bra. And it's like, yeah, but like, you won't have that 18-year-old face in 20 years. Do something that's made to last. And I read this, I don't know if you can see the Tony Bennett book, which is my reference too. He says in the book that his mother did not was a sort of like a tailor, and she didn't fix cheap dresses. And he said, and she knew we needed the money, but we didn't. She didn't do cheap dresses because she said that she had a quality standard. And so when he was really little, she told him, don't do cheap stuff. Always go for quality. You might have to work harder and it might take you longer, but you will build something that lasts. And he said that during the 70s, when his label was trying to push him to do disco music, he stuck to his guns and he said, no, I'm gonna be a legend because I'm gonna do something that lasts. I don't want some shitty expendable thing. And he didn't do it, and he had like 20 bad years, but now he's 94. And I love that autobiography because he said, I've just turned 90. And when you turn 90, you get the right to do not one but two autobiographies, and that's where it's called Just Getting Started because of that, right? It's the second one, and I get that from him, and I always figure when I'm trying to, because you get it in your head sometimes, like, well, maybe if I like cheapen this out a bit so that everybody likes it, then it'll blow up faster. And then I'm like, but it doesn't feel right. I go to sleep, hear it in the next morning, and I'm like, no, like,
Right.
I'm sorry, God. I mean, I'm sorry, Mom, Dad, that I'm not that millionaire yet, but I can't put up with this cheap shit.
No, exactly. And you got the same mentality as me, man, because I always tell my listeners, my philosophy has always been, once you reach the top of the mountain, find a bigger mountain and start fucking climbing again. Because you get too comfortable, you're falling down, or there's someone coming for your spot. And,
Right.
There's going to be a time, like for me, it was like with MMA, it's like, you can't do this shit forever. You know what I'm saying? Concussions and all that bullshit. It's not wise to do this for too long. So the plan, with everybody is get in, make your money, and get the fuck out. But a lot of people don't have a backup, or like something to fall back on afterwards, or something to pursue after the fact. And I was like, that's never going to be me, man. I've got my business. I've got the show now. I've got so much shit going on, that it's like, I don't have to go back to fighting if I don't want to, and I'm undecided on that. But it's nice to have that luxury of like, maybe, I've made my name for myself. I don't have to fucking do this anymore. I'm doing what I enjoy doing right now, and I can continue doing that, and it's fine, because I didn't just get good at something and stay there. It's constantly moving, to
Right.
stay relevant. And fuck, I'm getting the go home cue here. So before I wrap this shit up, my thought with what you're saying was that it's like, I would rather, like, if the worst that's gonna happen is somebody calls you a has-been when you've already kind of reached multiple generations, that, you know what I mean? That's pretty
Right.
that's pretty cool, to have that longevity.
It's
And
like, dude, I have an action figure, with my face on it.
you
Shut
know,
up.
right? Like fucking, to one generation of people, maybe some feel you're a has-been, but then to like two or three others, you might be like completely new to them, and they get right into you. You know what I mean?
Right.
With music, I find that happens a lot. Movies, I find that happens a lot. You look at, any given movie that we still talk about today, like Nightmare on Elm Street, for example. There's so many kids right now that are watching that for the first time, and it came out in '84. You know what I mean? And
Right.
that was my childhood, and now my kids will be fucking watching that for the first time and like, holy shit, this is cool. And it just keeps going on and on. Nobody ever says, oh, that movie is like fucking, played out. Fuck that movie.
Right.
On
Right.
something better. It's like, so why do we do that to people? You know what I mean? It doesn't make sense to me.
Right. And you sometimes you watch it back, like they're so timeless that you watch it back and you're like, I didn't even know that I was watching all this wisdom. Like sometimes to me it happens. Like I hear songs back or watch shows from older days, and I'm like the Jungle Book is one example. Like the Jungle Book, I enjoyed it as a kid, and it's like from the 60s or something, and I enjoyed it as a kid, but I enjoyed it more when I actually understood everything. It's not for children, it's for people who want to open up their minds. And I love that last line that he said when Mowgli is trying to watch this girl picking the water closer, and Baloo comes running after him, and he's like, oh no, Mowgli, don't get too close, those things are nothing but trouble. And that just stuck with me, because I was like, I never noticed that they said that.
Right?
And that is so true. Like, a man doesn't know about heartbreak till he meets the first girl he loves, and then all his world is turned around, and you're like, whoa, this hurts. Like, life hurts.
Right?
We usually, men as kids, we usually are playing around and having fun and not even caring about girls. And all of a sudden you meet one, and that's when pain and hardship begins, right? So,
Life gets complicated when heavy emotions get involved into it.
right. And so, there are a lot of shows and songs that, depict that, or that have that encrypted in their sounds, and that you hear them back, and it's like they get better with time. Like, there are certain things like that I hear and that get better with time. And to just to close this like topic up, I was like, I thought, to be a has-been is better because you actually were.
That's right.
You have to have been. And people who say, oh, they're has-beens, it's like, were you ever? Who are you again?
Right.
Like it's one thing that I tell people, like, I'm going to die someday, just like everybody else. But one privilege that I have that most people don't have is that you'll forever be haunted by my voice. It's forever there. My ideology is in those words. My sense of life is in those arrangements. And my voice, will hound you forever. You'll have to hear it on streaming services all life. It's forever. And that's one thing that I never realized, like in the earlier days. I never realized how important that was when I lost my grandmother, and she was like a second mother, and I loved her so much. I figured I had recording equipment all of those years. Why did I never record her? I should have sat her down and have her tell me some words, and just have it there so that I could hear her voice. And now I don't, and I remember it, but it'd be nice to hear it. And I realized that thanks to platforms, streaming services and platforms like your show today, my voice is there forever.
That's right. That's true. And that's awesome. I think that's great with technology. It gives us that ability, and that's cool. And now, at some point, I'm probably going to get high and watch fucking Jungle Book and be sitting there stoned at a tree like, that bear really knows his shit.
The bear and the snake are both really, really wise. And it's funny because the panther is like the complete opposite. So they have them there like to create balance.
Right.
And the tiger, who is supposed to be the mean one and the wise one, and the knowledgeable and king of the jungle, he's the one who knows the least. So watch out for the snake. And if people in the audience are gonna watch too, watch out. I can't remember the snake's name. It's like a boa or python or a big snake. And the bear got it down too. Baloo got it down. And you should watch it in British English because it's funny to, it's so classic, and the drawings are so good. The cartoons are so good. So yeah, it's awesome movie. And for the listeners, my album is awesome too, so go pick it up.
Yeah, I was gonna say before we go, man, like, is there anything you want to promote?
Oh well, just like my album and my host beautiful self. Nah, just kidding. Like my album is the real deal. My beautiful self is too. Okay, I tangled up on that one. That didn't go well, but yeah, my album is Irreplaceable, and it's available on all streaming services. And, if they want to learn more about me, they can go to ianguerinmusic.com. And I always say I have a complicated last name, so Gierin is Guerin. And they can hit me up on Instagram at I am Ian Guerin. I got this thing going with the captions. Watch out for those, because I'm trying to start something with, lyrics, and it's like I'm trying to get like a rebel kind of sense of a story there, so I choose very, kind of rebel captions and all of that. So tell me what you guys think right there on Instagram at I am Ian Guerin. And well, if you don't like the album, tell me. And if you do like it, please tell me too. That would be it.
Hey man, I appreciate your time. This is a hell of a fucking conversation. I loved it. I had a blast. So thanks for coming on, dude. Anytime you want to come back, man, feel free. I'm going to check you out on Instagram myself and stay in touch. So let me know if you want to come back anytime. And if you got something new coming out, you want to promote that, fucking come on back, man.
Oh, I forgot to mention that I got the new single, and then the new single and the new video is out Friday, October 9th. So everyone watch out for that.
Perfect. So there you go. If you don't,
thank you so much for having me.
Hey man, anytime. It was a fucking pleasure, dude.
Thank you. I had a blast.
All right, cool. Well, we got to do this again sometime.
For sure. Talk more about Nickelback.
Hell yeah. Start some more.
Let's have him on the show next time.
I'll work on it. I'll let you know when Hell Freeze is over. Have a good one, brother.
Thank you so much.
That was my dude, Ian Guerin, man. What a cool guy. I had a blast talking to him. I hope to have him back on again at some point. I'm so booked up, it's ridiculous, but I'll always make time for that cat. We had a good talk. And it was a long show because we had so much to talk about. And here's the thing, when you don't know your guests beforehand, you really don't know what to expect. So it's always a pleasant surprise when you actually get along with your guests very well and just have a lot in common or the same mindset. So it's really cool, man. Great guy. Hope to have him back. Wish him nothing but success. And I'm sure that's exactly what he'll get. So, you know, he's working hard, and there's talent there. So, you know, I'm sure he'll be just fine. I can't wait to have him back on and see how he's progressed since. I think it'd be cool. So, thanks for checking out the show. This was the last show before the Halloween shows start. So, the next one you hear is going to be Halloween season. Thanks for checking it out. I'll catch your asses later, bro.